All right, guys, we want to welcome you out to another Laidlaw Harley-Davidson podcast. This is episode number 7, right, Keith?
Man. Yep, I'm number 7 now.
All right, man, we're racking them up here. So we have a really cool guest today. We've got Mike Davis here today. He's one of the co-founders, along with his friend Grant Peterson, who founded the Born Free Show. And for those of you who watch my channel, I've done a lot of full coverage stuff at the Born Free Show. It's arguably the biggest custom motorcycle show in the world. And anyways, Mike, happy to have you out, man. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about Mike and how he started. Really, I think, if you follow Mike on his social media platforms and things like that, he's really into the whole vintage scene, cars, motorcycles, which is where we're going to spend the most time on. But let's talk a little bit, Mike, about, what really kind of started your passion for, all things vintage. And before you even started the Born Free Show, what started kind of your passion for two wheels growing up?
Well, it definitely wasn't the street bike thing. I was into dirt bikes, mini bikes, quads, three-wheelers, all that stuff as a kid. Growing up in Fresno is where I grew up, not out here in Southern California. And me and my brother and my buddies, anything with a motor we were interested in, go-karts or whatever. So always had a big passion for dirt bikes, got into the three-wheelers pretty heavy when that was popular, and then got into quads. And then kind of took a break off of that and got into old cars. My dad and friends were into old cars and kind of went that way. My first vehicle was a 56 Chevy pickup that I got from my grandpa, when I turned 15. So I was just always into old stuff. I don't know, just something, growing up where I did and what I was into. And then when I moved out here in 95, I started seeing some, I was still into the old car thing and I'd go to all the swap meets and shows and stuff like that. Met some dudes that were into it. And then one day, that was probably late 90s. A buddy of mine showed up with this Triumph chopper thing, and I'd never even seen anything like it before. I don't know why. I'm sure they were out there, but it just blew my mind. And it was just that's all I could think about. Every day it was just how do I get one of these things? I had no idea how they worked. Yeah. Didn't know anything about British stuff. Never even seen a Triumph, believe it or not. And it just consumed all my thoughts and just was obsessed on it.
How old were you at this time?
So it was 30, I don't know, late 30s, maybe mid 30s.
Okay, and that's when you first saw that Triumph, and you just kind of fell in love with it then and there.
Yep, absolutely. And then he, started talking to him about it, and he had it for a little while and stuff, and then started looking for one, went on Craigslist and did the whole thing and found some, clacked out BSA thing and bought it and immediately took it apart, which you shouldn't do. Recommend do not taking them apart. And it sat in my garage for about 6 months. Finally got it back together, rode it around, scared the crap out of me. Chain came off on the street and the whole deal. And I was just hooked, man. That was the beginning.
So were you a mechanic when you decided to start taking motorcycles apart, or?
No.
Okay.
And if anybody knows about anything about British bikes, you have to have special tools and just as simple as some of them can be, they can be extremely difficult. You can't just run to Home Depot and buy, hardware, and there's very few shops that have stuff. It's
mechanically they're simple, but the devil's in the details with them. Like you're saying, all the hardware's a special size. You gotta have a special tool to use it. The thread pitch is not what you're used to. Yeah, it's
exactly.
They're a labor of love, man. You gotta every little part. You gotta look for them.
Yeah, and there's not that many shops either, so you can't really pick too many people's brains. But luckily, there was a guy. He'd passed away now. He had a shop in Anaheim, and we became real close. It was Moore Cycle. His name was Keith Moore. He's a great guy. And he basically taught me everything about British bikes. And that's what I was into at that time. Since it's progressed, and I still do like them, but, Harley is where my heart is now.
Yeah, well, so if you started with the Harley-Davidson to begin with, the Harleys, and I'm not a mechanic, but I would assume the Harley's probably easier to work on than the British bikes, right? Yeah. So you kind of started...
Especially vintage.
you started with the hard bike as your learner bike, quote unquote, right?
Yeah, but you know what? I still feel like the British bikes are easier.
Really?
Than the Harley. Yeah. I mean, I can do a few things on a Harley. I'm no mechanic by any stretch or a builder or anything like that. But the British bikes, I feel like I could take them apart, fix them, put them back together. Harley, I'm always going to need help, and use somebody, a friend or whatever. I don't know, just a comfort level, I think.
So talk about what was your first Harley-Davidson you ever owned?
So the first one I got was a panhead chopper from actually one of our builders this year. So John Edwards and I have been friends for a long time. And he built this incredible panhead chopper, and he was trying to help me find one. So I found this bike out on Craigslist. It was a 57 panhead, and I went out there to see it and Fell in love with it. It was like a stock bike, and this guy was super cool. He said, "Oh man, my phone's been ringing off the hook. You're the first one here." And I'm like, "Let's do it. I'll buy it. I want it." I think it was about 10 grand, which was not cheap, but I saved up and stuff. And I was getting ready to load the bike up, and he's like, "Well, where are you going to put all the parts in the sidecar?" And I just was like, "What?"
You didn't know it came with the sidecar?
Or the parts. Nice. So he's like, "No, yeah, come over here." So we went in the garage, and it was like a load of parts.
Wow.
Like killer parts.
That's a find right there.
Builder's dream, right?
Van head parts, crates, like of the good
Yikes.
stuff, not aftermarket, like real parts. And then it had a sidecar. There was a 38 sidecar, like in immaculate condition.
Nice.
Wow. That's
So, I
awesome.
mean, I was like shaking all the way home. I rented a U-Haul trailer. I get home and my buddy comes over and he looks at it. And he's like, he wanted that stock bike. So I said, "Okay, I'll trade you your chopper," because I really wanted a chopper. Today I would have kept the stalker.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He actually still has a bike, and we traded. I didn't give him the parts or the sidecar. So I ended up selling all of that and got the whole thing for free.
Sure.
So that's when I realized, oh crap, if you do this right and you look and you search and you find, you can make it work for you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I started buying all the bikes and selling in the parts. That was my first like real experience on like, you can do good, but you got to be out there and, willing to put the time in, the work in.
Yeah, you don't find stuff like that all the time. Like, especially nowadays too. That's really hard to come by a deal like that.
Now everybody's doing it. I mean, not that I was the first. Guys have been doing parts and swap
Right.
meets for 100 years, but at that time, it just didn't seem like it was going on as much, especially with younger guys.
Sure.
So you got the 57 pan, you traded it to your friend, and your friend traded you back a chopper. What was that chopper?
It was a 52 pan. Actually, I kept it a while and then ended up selling it back to him, believe it or not. He really wanted it. He finished the bike. It's actually probably one of the coolest panhead choppers ever built. I mean, you can Google it and find it, and it's been around. It's exchanged a few hands since he doesn't own it, and wish he did now, but it was a great bike. I mean, it's a iconic, traditional 60s style, panhead chopper.
I'm going to flash a picture up on the screen. What would I Google search for to find that bike?
Probably John Edwards panhead.
Okay.
I think it would come up like that.
All right, I'll flash a picture up for those of you watching on YouTube. I'm going to have a picture of a few things. If you're listening via podcast, by the way, check out the YouTube as well, because you got a visual of everything. It's a little bit better experience. But anyway, so very cool. So it sounds like you kind of started with buying and selling and kind of just like a hobby with vintage stuff, which kind of maybe laid the groundwork for Born Free. Is that right? Or
yeah, absolutely. So as I got more into the scene, if you want to call it that, when we were running around with guys that had vintage bikes and ended up having quite a few friends that had them. So, we were going to this little cafe on Saturday or Sunday, and a lot of bikes would show up, and we started talking, and that's when I met my partner, Grant Peterson. We were just talking about bikes and exchanging, info. And one day we just said, man, it'd be cool to just do a little show with all of our friends, because we had, 20, 30 guys that all had killer bikes. And I was going to all the shows anyway. I was going to all the Easy Rider shows and any kind of motorcycle show that was around, because I was into it, watched all the TV shows, and, I was obsessed with motorcycles, but realized that those shows really didn't have as many bikes that we liked at the time. A lot of them were more modern, or that modern chopper, or OCC type stuff, which I love that show. I don't care what anybody said. I watched it. All those biker build-offs. I mean, like, I'm not afraid to admit all that. I watched every one of those things.
the Jesse James Monster Garage.
All of it.
Stuff.
Yeah, every single one.
So they're bringing that back, actually.
Really?
The other day.
I think a lot of people watch that. Like, I don't think there's anything to be
I
ashamed of
watched
for
them
watching
too.
those.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they, regardless of what the production value was and what it really meant, they had a lot of like neat bikes and cool ideas.
I mean,
And
there's a little bit of
they're
Hollywood
stretching
in there.
the envelope a little bit. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there was nothing else to watch like it. And it's funny, a lot of the guys that we know that are in the space today worked on those shows or worked for Jesse or, like I'm friends with Chica and, my buddy John worked with Chica. And like there's still a lot of those guys floating around doing their own thing now, which is cool.
Yeah.
So, man, I was just all hooked,
Very
so
cool.
we started talking about doing a little show, and we decided to do a ride. So we went out to Cook's Corner. I think it was a Saturday, and we invited some people, and I don't know, it's like 20, 30, 40 guys showed up. We did this little ride through Laguna and all this stuff, and it was fun. We got a good turnout. It was all old bikes, which was neat. And then we just started talking more. We did another ride, and then we decided let's try to do a proper show.
About what time was this? Like what year?
This was like 2008.
Okay.
I think the first Born Free was in 2009. But yeah, 2008 we started talking, and then in about a month's time we hatched the plan to do Born Free 1. And it was actually at a buddy's shop. It was a Triumph shop in Orange that was near where we lived, and threw it together in a month. And this was the time when blogs and stuff like that were really big, and there was just a few motorcycle websites like Jockey Journal, forums like that. So, you post your event on a forum, and I had a blog that I had been selling parts off of and putting up, naked chicks and all kinds of fun stuff for years, weird stuff. And I posted the show on there, and we got some good traction. So within 30 days, we had a little flyer we put together. We made T-shirts, and we had a couple of partners at that time besides Grant and myself. So us three at Born Free 1 put the show together, did everything ourselves. We had a taco lady. Everything was free beer, free hot dogs, free tacos. And we had about 500 people show up.
Wow.
We were just in the parking lot of a bike shop, and we probably had like 100 bikes, which, if you see 100 vintage bikes in one space, that's a good amount.
That's a lot. Yeah.
So it was only vintage bikes that were kind of allowed, and like, did people sign up to actually be in the show, or was it just kind of like, hey, show up and show off your bike?
Yeah, it was just a free for all. I mean, we didn't say don't ride your new bike. Certainly there were new bikes there parked in the street because the little private drive was small, and we had it all blocked off just for parking. So I'm sure there were tons of newer stuff, out there, but the show itself at the time was just a vintage platform. We were promoting it as Born Free Vintage Motorcycle Show.
Cool.
So, but we got a great turnout. It was a ton of fun. It was probably 105 degrees. It was in September, which is ironic. That's the new date of this show.
Yeah.
And, we had a blast. I mean, we did all these vintage trophies. We actually had guys from other areas. We had this group from Chicago who came out, and some other guys that were following the blogs, and, everybody was kind of being friendly over the internet, but we had never really met in person the way we have now. But it was cool. So guys would travel and stuff. So we had a really good turnout and all this diverse crowd. And it just was, it was like an eye opener. It was like, wow, man, this was cool. You
had people traveling from Chicago for Born Free 1, the very first one.
I don't know if they were here just for this or they saw it or maybe, but I never really talked to the guys about it. But we had, guys from Minneapolis, guys from Chicago, guys from that area. There's a pretty good chopper crowd out there, and they showed up.
Very cool.
And
at that time, he's talking about like nobody was doing like a vintage bike show really, like, so and that arena was kind of small back then. That word traveled fast, and to get 100 bikes back then, 100 vintage bikes in one spot, that's crazy. Like,
your first year.
That didn't happen back then. Not like it does nowadays. Like how big it's gotten, but yeah. That's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, we had some guys from the Bay Area. There's some really heavy-duty chopper guys up there, and they came down. A buddy who was a really good, like a professional photographer, set up a little studio thing kind of deal, and we shot 15 bikes or something in there, and it looked really good. We started posting those photos and photos of the show, and just word got out, and then just kind of all snowballed from there.
Very cool. So the very next year, you had number 2, like around the same time, or?
So the next year, I ran into a guy who just actually passed away, Mike O'Brien from Pacific Coast Cycles in Signal Hill. And I went to his shop to buy some parts and started telling him, we were talking, and we started telling him about our show and how great it was. And he was into vintage stuff and like an old biker guy, but super cool. And he said, man, why don't you do your next show at our shop, like at his shop? So I'm like, sure, that sounds great. Let's do it. It was a cool old bike shop. With had the building in the back and the building up front, and it was on a street in Signal Hill. So I'm like, this sounds great. Let's do it. And realized at that time, this is kind of how this whole thing started. Like, you can't just do whatever you want to do, in a city street in a business. So we try to do it the right way. So I went, applied for the permit and all that. Ended up having to do like traffic plans and meet with city plan. I mean, it was insane.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even get the permit to do the show until the night before.
Wow.
So we went from this fun little bike show or just show up, have fun, who cares, to like, I'm sitting in, wearing a suit and tie, sitting in a city meeting and explaining what we're doing and put a presentation together. And I mean, they literally dropped off like 400 street signs with detours, and we had to go set them all up off of a map.
So what started as a fun little thing turned into all business really quickly.
And it was it was so stressful. I mean, now we know what we know. The permits are very important, but we know how it works. But not having that permit until the day before was like, it was scary.
Yeah.
It was like a
Nail biter.
super stressful. But we planned an after party, and we had all kinds of we got some sponsors at that time. Harley wasn't in, but we did have a few others, and we ended up having a buddy who had a connection at Pabst, and they delivered 5,000 cans of Pabst, and we gave it all away for free. Which you can't do that. Can't give away beer. You got to have a liquor license and all that. We didn't know that, and we also had the same taco lady who told me she could feed 200 people. We paid her, and ended up feeding about 2,000 people. Like, she somehow stretched it. So it was pretty crazy.
It was like Jesus and the fish and the bread.
Yeah, exactly. So we had 5,000 cans of Pabst. We had the taco lady. We had 6 porta potties. We actually rented porta potties. And we're like, 6 should be fine. But about 5,000 people showed up.
5,000?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. So 5,000 people showed up, and we had everybody from all walks of life. I mean, every bike club was there. Every, doesn't matter, nationality was there, all kinds of bikes, mainly vintage stuff, but there was everything, and everybody got along great. We didn't have one problem, one arrest, one fight, nothing. It was insane. Like, the whole day was just like nuts. We closed down a street. It was like a block party. Mm-hmm. Everybody was having a great time, just drinking, partying, eating, BSing, and it was just unreal.
And you just promoted this thing on your blog, or were there other avenues you were promoting this through?
It was the same deal. At that time, then we started our Born Free blog. The website thing wasn't around, but we started a Born Free blog, and we were doing it there. And then a lot of people at that time had blogs as well. It just was a popular thing, and there was a lot of stuff in the motorcycle world. So everybody was posting it, and people knew. We didn't pay for any advertising. I think we might have done some stuff with some Dice magazine and Friends, small mags, but nothing like, real magazines at that time. But yeah, just kind of word of mouth got out, and, did the flyers, and went to Long Beach Swap Meet and all the local stuff, and, did the groundwork, dropped flyers off at people's shops and stuff. And
grassroots, organic,
exactly,
street team style.
Yep.
Yeah, dude.
Yep. That's exactly how we did it.
Something you said, Mike, that I think is very interesting. I didn't start going, regrettably, I didn't start going to Born Free until, I want to say, I probably went about 5 years ago. So maybe like Born Free, I don't know, like 7 or 8 or something like that. But you talk about how everybody just comes together. There's a lot of people from a lot of different walks of life, and everyone just kind of seems to get along, and I think sometimes biker scenes and the biker crowd and parties kind of get a bad rap about, there's a lot of, biker gangs there, and things happen and people start fighting and stuff, but that was not the environment. Every time I've been to Born Free, the environment could not be more friendly, just good camaraderie around people that had a like interest in just the love of motorcycles. Yeah. And I think that's something that's just so cool. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but, even your other events like the Stampede and everything, once again, just a very, I would have no problem bringing my kids that are, 6, 8 years old to these shows and feel like, nothing's going to go down. Their safety isn't going to be at risk. And it's just a very cool, wholesome activity. So I think that's very cool. So let's talk, I guess we can kind of lump the next few years together. So Born Free 3, 4, 5, did you keep jumping avenues, or did you kind of settle into one, venue eventually, or what happened the next few years?
Yeah. So after the Signal Hill thing, we actually wanted to go back. And Mike, who owned the shop, was really excited. I mean, he to the day he died, called it the party of the century. Like, he told every person he ever came in contact with that he had the party of the century at his shop. Like, he loved it more than we did, probably. So we tried to go back, and we couldn't. Even though the Long Beach or the Signal Hill PD at the day of, or at the end of the show, we were in the streets picking up all the cans and trash and cleaned everything up, and they were like, "Man, this was great." He's like, "We were a little worried." Certainly had way more people than you thought, because I think I put down like 200 people maybe on the permit. He's like, we were outnumbered, but they didn't have one arrest, one problem. So they were really friendly and like patting us on the back, basically. Then when we went back to do it, they said no. Said you can't do it. It was too big. You had, they cited a bunch of stuff, which who knows if it ever happened, but they never said it the day of. I mean, everything was great. Not violence or anything, but just, guys were smoking weed and stuff, and it wasn't legal at the time, and there was some adult activity going on here and there, just whatever. Right. So we decided, well, we got to find a new venue. And then we found Oak Canyon, which we've been at since, out in out in Silverado Canyon behind Irvine Lake. And we went out there, and there had been events out there before. There's the Hootenanny and there's car shows and stuff. But we went out there and just fell in love. Like 17 acres, pond, park. It feels like you're riding somewhere, so even though you're just 10 minutes from town, once you get out on that canyon road, you get all those oak trees and the lake and everything. It feels like you're somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that was like, wow, we get this whole 70s biker vibe thing where you're riding somewhere and, you show up and it's on grass and not on concrete like everybody else is doing.
Yeah.
So we got a hold of the owner, and he was really friendly. In fact, we're amazing friends today, but started the process, and he called Long Beach PD, well, actually the Orange County Sheriffs, to start the due diligence, and they called Long Beach or Signal Hill, and they gave us like an F report card.
Wow.
Like
Haters.
a million things that we did wrong, even though we didn't. And he's like, Mike, I don't know if we can have this event here because I believe what you're saying, but the police are saying another story. And that's the whole biker thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just like they get discriminated on even if they don't do anything, or maybe one bad apple and, the whole group is rotten. So
right after I just said all those nice things about how wholesome it was, you're telling me this.
Exactly. Well, the thing was, I'm a family guy. I got 4 kids. I mean, it was Born Free 1 was definitely family. Born Free 2 definitely had a little different element. However, it was huge and fun, and there wasn't an issue. I can tell you, we know. And then we get to Born Free 3, so he's reluctant to give us, the permission and all that, and we work through it, and I meet with the sheriffs, and they I have a professional job besides the bike stuff, so they realize, okay, we're dealing with a professional, like, give them a shot. So we paid, heavily to have sheriffs there, which we still do today, and we love them, we get along with them great, but, I mean, they came in with, like, 30 officers, probably 20 undercovers, and a whole slew of whatever they call them, deputies or volunteers or whatever, because they were thinking some stuff was going to go down, and they have all the intel on the clubs and all that stuff, and everybody knows that. But we're like, look, we're not affiliated with any clubs. We don't have any problem with everybody. They can do whatever we want, but they, that's just not us. So they granted us permission. We started promoting the show, and certainly we're thinking a lot bigger at that point. That's when we decided, to have some invited builders and doing giveaway bikes and all the things that we do today, having bands, which we never had before. So even though it was a lot smaller then than now, there was a lot more new things coming in. But we just decided that if we had more people involved with the show, whether they were a vendor, a sponsor, a builder, the more people involved, the better the show would be.
Sure.
The more people would want to come. If you're invested in it and you have a stake in the, you're doing something there, you're a vendor, you're a builder, you're a sponsor, you're not going to, talk a bunch of crap, and you're going to want to come to the event, and it'll help it grow.
Good point.
Which it did. So instead of, we're cool guys and you can't come, or that group can't come, or these people can't come, we just basically welcomed everybody. Like, you're all welcome to come and do your thing, however you want to do it. So it started really, getting some momentum behind it. And then, had to learn a lot. Won't bore you with the details, but, fire, private security, health departments, all the agencies. Just when you're first starting out, you have no idea how to do this stuff. So, I taught myself basically how to do these events, and my partner's really good at it too. He has certain skill sets that I don't have, and that's why we work well together. But I do all the back end operation stuff that is no fun, but I know how to do it and know how to talk to these people. So it's worked out. But throwing all, so we get to the show, and then the day before the show, they tell us, hey, you can't have colors at your show. We had no idea that was even a thing. Like, we never thought about it. Yeah. So I'm like, so you want us to not let them in? Like, what if they show up? He's like, well, no, you can't let them in.
The sheriff told you can't let them in?
The sheriff and the site owner.
Okay.
They're like, and I said, well, you never told us that. I'm like, how do we do this now a day before the show? So that was a little, weird area to be in. So we had to post all these signs, and of course clubs came. Luckily, we knew quite a few of them because we had sold them, tickets or met them at swap meets or whatever. So it actually was diffused pretty easily. And most of them left because, they have their things that they have to do, and we didn't allow cuts and colors and all that stuff. So anyway, it didn't turn into a big deal at all. And the sheriffs were actually really impressed the way we handled it. They were thinking that, no, man, we got to call in the SWAT team. It's going to be this big deal. And We talked to them, explained to them, assured them everything, and it actually ended up working out really well. So after 3, it was a no-color event, which most guys respect and understand. Look, we're trying to provide this family-friendly environment. We want everybody to come, and all those guys are welcome to come.
Yeah.
Participate, whatever. We just can't have the colors. It's just part of being on private property. It's part of the condition of the site and the sheriff's.
Yeah, clubs are getting used to it by then. They were starting to realize, like, after the whole Laughlin thing happened, it was about around the same era that they, they started a lot of these, like, no-color events started, cropping up. So they kind of knew what the time of day was, and they got used to it, pretty quick. That's most events are like that nowadays. So.
Yeah, and a lot of the guys from these clubs are, real good dudes. I'm friends with a lot of guys that participate in MCs, and they're really nice people. They are they nurture the riding community just as much as anybody, if not more. And so it's not so much a shot at them as it is just like we can't have the politics, and there's other forces like law enforcement that say you can't have it. It's not even our decision, which makes it easy to say it's not our decision, sorry, but I think they get it most of the time. So, okay, so very cool. So starting at number 3, you guys started having it at the Oak Canyon, and then it's been there ever since, right? Up and through, and 12 is coming up next, right? And the venue's been, people describe it as the Woodstock of Harley-Davidson events, right? Is that accurate in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has that festival vibe, with all the grass and the trees and all that. You do get this relaxed feel. So that's part of the whole thing, what you mentioned about, the community and everybody in a good mood. And we, knock on wood, we've never even had an arrest.
Oh, wow.
So this will be 12. So through 11 events, we've never had an arrest. We've never even had a fight.
Very cool.
So we're really proud about that. So I think when people get there, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
And the things evolved
to
now. So I don't bore you with all the details, but from the early days to now, there's a million things going on. So there's shows within the show.
Yep.
Right. So beyond the 2 stages and the 8 bands over 2 days and the Vans, Vert demo and the Rusty Butcher Sportster show and the Biltwell thing. And, San Diego Customs has their whole big area with the FXR and all the modern platform stuff.
Yeah.
We've had the Arlen S show so there's all these little shows inside the show besides 100 plus vetted vendors. So we really work on our vendors to make sure what they're selling or promoting fits what we're doing.
Yeah.
So it's not like, we've said it a million times, beef jerky and Beanie Babies and just, whatever to sell a spot. We sell out our vendor spots. I mean, we don't even open it up. Every year the same vendors come back, and we end up, adding maybe 2 or 3, maybe 5, which pisses a lot of people off because they can't get in. But it's like this, we want to stay loyal to our folks, and we only have a certain amount of room, right? And we don't want the whole event just littered with vendors, all doing leather wallets or selling vintage t-shirts.
That's smart too, because like a lot of the events that that don't do so well these days, like Street Vibrations and all these places that people used to go, they got taken over by vendors because the promoter got greedy and wanted more money, more vendors, wanted guaranteed money, and they ran all the public out of it. So that's a super smart thing there. Like,
I didn't even know you did that. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you, Keith, but I didn't even know you did that, and that's super smart because you're right. Like, you go to some of these other events, and I'm not going to dog other events, but some of the vendors are just kind of like, why are you there? Like hair coloring or just like all the leather goods, which to a certain extent some of that's okay, but yeah, when it's a motorcycle show, like the guys that come to Born Free, I think you attract such a core, like, awesome group, and everybody wants to come every single year, and people travel all around the world to come because you have awesome bikes there. You have builders that are awesome, which we're going to get into the shows in a minute. But I didn't even know you vetted your vendors like you did. But that, now that I'm thinking about it, that makes sense because just about every vendor I walk past, I want to look at them. It's not like a throwaway where it's like I could see that anywhere. But I'm at Born Free. I want to see like best of the best, world. I'm going to say renowned, but stuff that's very unique, and like maybe American-made products or whatever it may be. So yeah, kudos there, big time. So you touched on the contest a little bit. Let's talk about we'll talk about first the core show. Would you call it the core show with the choppers, or what do you call that exactly? Your vintage chopper show, or?
Yeah, and it's evolved. The vintage part of the show's dropped off. If you know now, you look at all the artwork, it's just a Born Free motorcycle show. So the vintage thing, after, I don't know, about 5 or I think maybe 6, we just eliminated that because we still love the vintage and it's the core of the show, but a lot of guys that are into vintage are now also into new bikes.
Yeah.
You know, you realize like, hey, you know, vintage stuff is awesome, but I can't spend all my time working on this thing, or I'm trying to go on a ride and I'm breaking down. I mean, I'm the best example. Every ride I ever tried to go on an old bike, I didn't make it, you know, and then finally wised up. I'm like, man, if I get a new bike, I can go for 5 days and know I'll be home, not going to break down, have a great time, see everything, do everything. And a lot of guys, I think, started to realize that after they started working on their bikes. And, you know, it's an evolution like me. You start with a Triumph, then you get a Sportster, and then you go to a Shovelhead, and then you want to get a Panhead or whatever, you get a Knuckle if you can afford it. And then you start to go the other way. You're like, man, you know, I've had all these bikes. What, you know, maybe an FXR. You know, I can ride that and still be cool, because an FXR is a modern chopper. I mean, that's what it is. It's a chopper. And so we started, you know, seeing a lot more guys on FXRs, and then the Dyna thing exploded, and even the bagger thing to a certain point. You know, I'm not into the big wheel bagger stuff, but I have a new Road Glide S, and I would never get rid of it for anything. I love that bike. I love all the new stuff they do, you know, make for it, whether it's Harley accessories or other aftermarket. It's a fun space. It's neat. It's new. So the show's evolved from, you know, the vintage stuff is certainly important, and that's it. But all the new stuff too is really coming to the fold.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed like right away about being there, there's so many vintage bikes, and there's a lot of like more than I've ever seen. Really cool bikes, but it's a big mix. Like there's something for everyone there. Like if you're into skating, there's a skate demo. If you're into live music, you guys have the bands going on. Like whatever you're into, you can find it there. Like if you're looking for old parts, some guys are there with old gas tanks and front ends and all these cool things you can't, you know, find outside of that, you know, that space. It's a really cool event. Like it's awesome. And the builder guys, I mean, I geeked out on the guy that did, I think it was a cutaway of a Shovelhead that was like running. I was like, dude, do you know what kind of work went into this? And everyone's like, yeah, whatever. I was standing there for like an hour staring at it. Like, how do you even go about doing something like that? It's awesome. Amazing.
Talk about your invited builders. What does it take to be an invited builder to Born Free?
You know, it doesn't take a lot, believe it or not. I mean, if you have the passion to do it and you really want to do it, I mean, we've taken guys never heard of before, no name, no shop, just average dude who just has
apply to you, or how do they get in?
I mean, we find people. So a friend will mention somebody. You know, you might have a guy you know, and you say, hey, you know, take a look at this guy. You don't have to be this. You know, forget what you see on Instagram or Facebook or the internet. That's all BS. You don't have to be our friend. We don't even have to know you. I don't have to know anything about you. You don't have to be this 30-year-old dude with perfect hair and a beard and the chopper lifestyle. Like we've got guys, you know, people keep saying, oh, a bunch of skateboard hipster builders. It's absolutely not true. If you look at the builders, we had a 70-year-old guy, you know, 2 years ago, Scratch, you know, this year, Don from Michigan. I mean, look at the guy's profile. He's like an old ex-racer and painter, and he's done funny car stuff. I mean, this guy is not a hipster skateboard builder. You know, we certainly have those guys, and they're cool and they do stuff, and you know, we are friendly with everybody, and that's the thing that the reason the show works for us, and I think that it's got to where it is because we're not just promoters that throw out a date and say see you at the show. Mm-hmm. We go to every show we can to promote the show and everybody involved with us. We go to every swap meet, you know, that's around and promote the show with flyers and meet people and shake hands and sell them, you know, passes to the show or tickets to the giveaway. So when people say, oh, they knew that guy, he won, it's like, yeah, because we
know everybody.
we try to.
Pretty much, exactly.
We, you know, we try to do our best, and even the haters, like, we've tried to reach out to those guys and say, hey, you know, you're on the internet telling everybody how Born Free sucks and the bikes don't run and all this crap. It's like, have you been? Yeah. No. Do you want to come? Well, you know, I mean, why don't you come out here? I'll give you a free pass. You know, come to the show, check it out. And if you hate it, then get on the internet, tell all your buddies how bad it sucks, and we're all a bunch of whatever. And either they don't come because they're never going to come, or they come and they realize, holy crap, man, this was a blast. He goes, you're right. You know, so we try to change people's mind, and we have over the years. You know, we're not perfect, but I feel like we're super approachable. If you have an idea, whether you're a builder, whether you're a sponsor, a vendor, you want to do something crazy inside the show, you know, swallow goldfish, whatever it may be, like we're up for it. We're into it. I mean, we have so many things going on. In fact, we're hoping we have the show this year. We have this, you know, pie eating contest, and we have the bad tattoo contest. We have all these things that random dudes wanted to do. And we're like, if you think you can do it and you can pull it off, we're going to let you do it.
Yeah.
That's
you know,
cool.
We've had weddings at the show. We've had proposals at the show. We've had, I mean, we had all kinds of stuff. I mean, and there's some hanky-panky stuff that goes on here and there, you know, in the San Diego Customs area and all that, that's a good time. So, I mean, there's so many things that go on that we try to let people do their thing. You know, we're not constantly screaming at them or yelling, you know, tell them you can't do this, you can't do that. As long as everybody's having fun, no one's getting hurt. Like it's that kind of show.
It's kind of a show for the people, I think. You know, it's kind of the people's show and the community show. It's not so much. And I think one of the things, and correct me if I'm wrong, that I've seen is you guys really, to a point, try to limit the amount of like commercialism in the show as well. Sure, there's big companies, Vans, Harley-Davidson, things like that, that are there to, I guess, positively influence people about their brand. But at the same time, you haven't really over commercialized this event. Can you talk a little bit about that? And
yeah, I mean, that's the same with like we were talking about with the vendors, vetting the vendors. We don't solicit sponsorship. We never have. We don't, you know, get out on the road or look up companies. Mainly, a lot of them come to us. You know, they see the show and all that, which is a great thing, and we're very proud of that. And so we try to work with people that it makes sense. You know, so if their brand is, you know, we like what they're doing, or they're part of the space, or people respect what they do and it makes sense, you know, we'll look at them and talk to them and try to work out, you know, sponsorship for them. Our standard sponsorships don't work for everybody, you know, so we have to, and I help with this a lot, is create like a unique activation or a sponsorship for a particular company to make them fit in well, like you said, so it doesn't feel forced or like, oh man, these dudes just took a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. And you know, so working with them on the look, because a lot of times they're doing big other shows where you can get away with all that stuff. You know, you go to these other shows and there's nothing wrong with them, where it can be very commercial, and the Geico lizard could be walking around and, you know, handing out koozies. They tried to do that at our show and they're no longer a sponsor. I just told them it doesn't work. Yeah. You know, it's not the right crowd. And now they just fly their plane over the show every year and get like free marketing. Right. But, you know, I told them, look, you know, I saw what you did and everything. It's just, if you want to be successful here, this isn't the look that you do. You go at a different approach, and then you create something to help riders who need insurance come to you and sign up. You know, you need to be creative. You need to look at the people that are here and figure out how to, you know, sing to what they want, not what you think works in Florida. Yeah. You know, so we've done that, and we've been really lucky, you know, and we work with the motor company, with Harley. We have a very unique relationship with Harley. People were calling us sellouts and all this stuff when Harley showed up. It's never been like that. We bounce ideas off of them. They bounce ideas off of us. We work super well together on curating their space, what the theme is for this year, if there is one. You know, we've done the race bike thing, we've done the hooligan thing, we've done all this stuff. Helping them, like we spoke earlier, about their artwork and the kind of merchandise they want to have at the show. We talked them into bringing out the museum a few times in the last couple of years, which is amazing. You know, if anybody's ever been to the Harley Museum, it's unreal. Yeah. And they brought out the museum store, so you could buy all this insane stuff you can only get from the store. You know, the Harley sweaters and the cool shirts and all the, you know, the books and everything, the neat stuff. And they brought it out and set it up at our event, and they'd never done that before anywhere. Rad. So for people who can never get to Milwaukee, for, you know, whatever reason, hopefully you do, to be able to have that museum come to you and those people and see those people, it was amazing. You know, and then you get people like Willie G, you know, and Bill Davidson and Karen and, you know, the people coming to the show, walking around, having a great time with, you know, and people will look at it and go, that's Willie G. Yeah. He's at Born Free. Yeah. You know, so, you know, all that kind of stuff works and helps. And we love that. I mean, Willie's a great guy. We've had tons of conversations with him. We've participated in events back at the museum and in Milwaukee. And so we've got this really good working relationship. They never force anything on us at all. It's always ideas either they have or we have, and it's worked great, you know. So it's a good way to bring that modern bike in Harley into our space, and it's worked, you know, organically, not forcing it, and it's been a joy, and you know, we cherish that relationship.
And you guys are bringing all the relevant manufacturers and bike builders there and stuff like that. I know we saw Brad Richards there last year and cruising around kind of incognito, and he's a VP of styling of the motor company. I mean, he's like the dude that's like designing bikes, and like he was just checking stuff out, man. He didn't tell anyone who he was or nothing. He was just kind of cruising and said hi to him because we knew who he was. But yeah, he was like checking out all these, and he's a If you don't see his Instagram, Zen of Nito is amazing, dude. He's got like
A lot of vintage
all
stuff.
these vintage stuff, vintage bikes and cars and dragsters and all this really cool stuff, man. He's in the scene big time. But yeah, that's where you can see that stuff. I mean, there's all these great guys there that are making new and old parts for, new and old bikes. And yeah, that's a really cool like spot to be in, especially from my side of the house, just checking things out from a mechanical perspective. But yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's like the paradise of all things Harley-Davidson, new and old.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your other shows you have there. So I know you mentioned San Diego Customs FXR Dyna show, and there's also the Harley-Davidson, what I feel like is like a Harley-Davidson invited builder show where they build like modern like baggers. You've got guys like Alloy Arts and San Diego Customs had a bike there. Suicide Machine had a bike there. I really like that. I really like, I like it all, I'll just be honest, but I think it's cool that there's that addition now. Maybe talk a little bit about the other shows that you have going on besides just like the core like vintage chopper show that you see in front of the stage.
So we have our invited builder group, and that's really, we promote that all year long. That's a big deal. So we have, anywhere between 20 to 30 builders. They're building whatever they want to build. We don't tell them what to build when we accept them or we ask them. And some people ask and some people we ask. Once they're in, they can build whatever they want. It could be a Honda, it could be a Harley, it could be whatever. So it could be new, old, it doesn't matter. And over the years, we've had a couple of newer builders in that group. We had, Roland Sands was in it, and Suicide Machine was in it, and Rusty Butcher was in it, and stuff like that. And we just decided that let's keep that thing going and still have those guys do whatever they want, but let's do more of a modern platform with a smaller group. And that's how we hatched that plan with Harley. We worked on it together to come up with, 4 to 6 builders every year that get a bike of choice. So they get to pick what they want. They're not force-fed, hey, everybody's got to, take this model. They get whatever they want to do, and they can do anything they want to it. So we started doing that, and it's been 4 or 5 years, and it's really grown too. And that's a big draw to the show. So we have this mainly vintage group with our invited guys, who Harley's also the sponsor of that. A lot of people don't realize that. They still do care about the vintage stuff and the history and continuing that.
Oh, yeah.
That whole segment of what they do, like they're involved. So they sponsor our invited builder group, and they sponsor what we call our Harley invited builder group. And that's been going on for like I said, for a few years, and it's been great. In fact, last year, the bikes that we had with the Harley group probably got just as much press and love as the old bikes.
Yeah. There's a lot of people over there.
It was great. We displayed them in the same area. We had, storyboards with it. We actually hired an announcer last year. It was fantastic. And he really spoke to the crowd about what was going on. Cause sometimes you walk by, you have no idea like what this is. Mm-hmm. Right. And that was also part of the Harley activation. And, we helped curate that space to make it look good and flow into the next space right next to it, which is the invited builder group. So that whole area was packed for 2 straight days. You could be looking at, like you said, Hawk's cutaway shovel that runs. Yeah. People think it doesn't run. The thing runs.
That
right?
thing's, is it on the internet? That thing is ridiculous.
Yeah. He's a builder this year, and the guy's unbelievable. Some of the guys we have, not to jump around, are like, how do you even think of this stuff?
Yeah.
And they're pushing themselves and challenging themselves. Not to say all of our builders are that, because you can just be a guy with style. Style to me goes as far, if not farther, than fabrication talent. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard, although we're getting a lot better over the last few years, to get a guy who can fab his brains out, but also has the style to go with it. Used to be a lot of the fabricators, man, their metalwork was insane, but their style just was like, they'd spend, 400 hours trying to make a tank or whatever, and then put a V-twin wheel, like from V-twin on the front.
Yeah.
And so it's like, man, you went that wild on the fab work, and then you just threw $100 wheel on it. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen now. Like guys realize, like, okay, you don't do that. Let's do it all. So we've got guys that are incredible fabricators doing stuff that you'd never even think of. 2 guys that just have cool style and and they have a look, and it might just be a panhead chopper with all the, the normal recipe, paint a tank and bars and all that stuff. But, they paint it up cool, and it's a neat, nice bike, and people like it. So we've got a great mix of the wild to just, the mild stuff, even a rider style bike. We don't tell them what to build. They got to build what they want.
Yeah.
So it's a good mix with the invited group. And then, like I said, with the Harley stuff, it's like those guys are really pushing, and it's great to see him work with Harley too.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the stuff they are using is Harley parts. Not everything is completely aftermarket. And this year we have Oliver Jones. He's trying to, I think he got a lowrider, but he's trying to create this 90s looking bike that Harley could have sold, right? So it's got a mix of all these Harley factory components all mixed around, and he's putting this bike together. And I think it's going to be a cool bike. Yeah. You know, we certainly have the bagger stuff. I mean, Chip got a CVO Road Glide. It's like, well, what do you do? What do you do with that? Yeah. But I think he was trying to make it into almost look like an FXR or something. So these guys are doing all the stuff. So we have Alloy Art, like you mentioned, Suicide Machine. We have Danny from Motor Witch in Arizona, who's Danny Wilson, who's new for us.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a great one. He's a really popular builder.
So he's the motor guy, right? So he's the one like pushing the envelope on the motor. And then, of course, Chip and Mikey from San Diego Customs, which we love. And they have their own area.
Yeah.
You know, so we've trusted them to take over a big portion of the show to create this space that really sings to those guys that like those kind of bikes. You know,
which
the
is
FXR.
a huge segment right now. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's such a huge growing segment, the whole Dyna FXR scene, with kind of those guys that maybe the guys that are coming maybe from like the moto inspired, like a dirt bike scene or whatever. So yeah, I love what they do for kind of that, cultivating that whole Dyna FXR, a little bit of the new Softail chassis now. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're right on the money there. So Saturday, you know, is the big FXR show. So the Saturday of the show, that's our biggest day for sure. That's FXR only. Sunday was the Dyna show, but 2 years ago they just changed it to be the open show. So whether you have a performance bagger or you got a Sportster or whatever it may, even an FXR if you can't make it on Saturday, so it's open to everything. And you know they have vendors over there; they're their own vendors, you know, that cater to those guys and those type of parts. So when you go over there, it's like this whole other show. You know, you're seeing guys that are doing the aftermarket stuff for the motors and the parts and the handlebars and suspension and all that stuff. So it's a good mix of what you get. So you go different areas of the show and you get a whole different vibe. Yeah. Over there, you know, like I said, it's a little more adult. They got some stuff going on over there that's fun, but the bikes are incredible. I mean, people, you know, are bringing out the baddest of the bad to the show.
They're innovating too. They're innovating stuff like making one-off parts and innovate like new ideas, expressing new things, and kind of seeing how people react to them or if they like them or whatever. And like, you see a lot of stuff over there like, well, I haven't seen that before. What is that? And you start asking around, and they're not shy to talk about it. They'll tell you all about it, man. You want to stand there all day, and they'll tell you exactly what it took to make it and why they did it, and it's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for if you want to call it the clubbed out Dyna or whatever. I mean, we had our Coast Glide build that really appeals to that crowd as well, which was at the Born Free show. Mike was kind enough to call me up and ask that we bring it down, which was a huge kind of a privilege and a pleasure for us to have our bike displayed at Born Free. And that area, by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, that's more of like a friends and family area that's kind of to the north of the stage there?
Yeah, so we across from our invited builder group in that Harley section, we have we call our special guests area. And those don't have to be friends or family. Those are just guys who've either approached us or we do know. Maybe they were a previous builder or they've got some old bike or their uncle heard about the show and wanted to bring out some, 100-year-old bike or something neat. And that area is really fun. I mean, that's probably gets as much traffic as the invited builder area because of the diversity. I mean, you had your bike there. We had the Built-Well People's Champ group, which is another show inside a show. All of those bikes were staged up in front. We had the Crazy Frank show, which if anybody knows what Crazy Frank is, it was an old guy in the 70s, built these fenders and these cool parts, and he ended up getting out of prison and he started doing it again. And so we had a whole section just for this guy. And I never even met the guy before, but a buddy was passionate about it, met Frank, and they started to do it. Won't bore you with it, but those are the things that we do that maybe somebody else wouldn't do. So we gave him a spot. And then, there's race bikes in there. Vance and Hines had I think it was like a dual engine Honda. I can't remember, but there's all kinds of stuff in there. I
saw that bike too,
So there's everything you can think of in there as long as that's cool. That's it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you came from. If you got a neat bike and you want to bring it. I mean, I've given passes to people I've never even met before that we met at a swap meet, and some old guy or lady will come up and, I heard you have an old bike show. I want to bring this thing out. And they tell me about it. I'm like, here, you bring it. Here, you do it. I mean, we've helped them unload the thing in the parking lot. it's 100 degrees out there. I got a million things to do, and I'm trying to help this guy unload his bike, to bring it in. But we'll do that stuff because we want to have the best at the show so people can enjoy and want to come back and feel like they've seen or can see anything.
Yeah. I heard you got a bike show. Yeah, I got a little show called Born Free. You should come on out with these guys.
Well, we don't treat it like that, man. I'll tell you.
I know you're a humble dude.
I know these guys are so humble, man. I met them at the Stampede and like never talked to them before ever. And I'm sitting there and like I think we were there for a long time and there was a big event going on, and they were telling me the whole story about it and how it all started. And I'm like, dude, this is the best thing ever. Like this thing grew up in like the decade pretty much to what it is now, and it's like it was like a great story, and just it was awesome to listen to. And they took the time in the middle of this event to talk to a few of us that were standing around about how things evolved and how things were, and it was me and Jamie. I think you were there too.
Yeah, the Stampede.
But yeah, it was super cool, man. It was a really good story to hear.
Speaking of the Stampede, why don't you talk a little bit about I know you have the Stampede, which is the flat track racing. And I've seen you have like the lodge up at Baldy. That's an event. And, maybe talk about some of these other ancillary events that have popped up as a result of the Born Free success.
So, yeah, we try to do some things, all around the year for the year, really. Around the show, certainly we have Born Free, and we have our big event, our big Stampede is based around the show. So that's the race a couple nights before the show. And last year we had the X Games qualifier. Yeah. So we had Harley,
cool.
Which was great, and ESPN and all that. And we had the X Games qualifier at our race. So we had to, change the way we do it a little bit. But it was a great experience. It was a lot of fun. We had 100 riders from all over the world that got to race. And then we had our vintage program too, which we're real proud of. And that's, 80 to 150 of the wackiest, craziest guys and girls in the world racing old bikes, having a blast, the pull start mini classes and all the stuff
that was awesome.
That we love. We even brought back 3-wheelers and quads, which I don't even know if it's legal. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's even legal to have those guys, but this group hit me up and they're like, we want to come. I'm like, it's perfect. It grooms the track. It doesn't hurt it. The guys are fun to watch. They fly. People love it. And it's like, where do you see 3-wheeler racing? Yeah. I thought it was banned. It probably is, but we allow it. So we started, jump back on the Stampede about 4 years ago. This flat track stuff started happening. Roland started doing his things, which we support and love, and even race in a lot of his events, and Hell on Wheels and all the different little flat track stuff. We just decided that it would be a good, add to the show to have a race, right before the show. So the first one we had was at Costa Mesa Speedway, which was incredible. It was a Thursday night event, which is hard to pull off.
Yeah.
We have to have it Thursday night because obviously the show's Saturday, Sunday. There's just no time. There's just too much going on. And Friday, there's a big party out at Cook's, so we just didn't want to conflict. So we just decided to have it on a Thursday. So it's worked out really well. And we even start the event sometimes at noon, and the thing will go to 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So if you're in town for the show and you want more to do, we're trying to make Born Free almost a week long, with parties, pre-parties, after parties, open houses, guys' shops and stores and dealer participation and stuff. So we're trying to create this almost a week-long event. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the Stampede's a blast. And then we decided to do, last year we did the Sportsman Cup, which was a new event. We did it out in Santa Maria. And it was actually a flat track race. It was a little bit of a catch-all. We had bikes, cars, had a couple of bands, racing, and we also allowed camping for all of our vendor sponsors and racers, which was like a lot of fun. Yeah. Because we can't do that at our show site. So that was a blast. We did an event in Del Mar in December. So we went to Del Mar Raceway, which is a prestigious raceway. It's been around forever. They probably have the best dirt in California, if not the world. It's amazing. So we did an event there, lost our butt and money, but it didn't matter. We wanted to have a great event. It's hard to do an event in December. Yeah. That was the only date we can get, and they charged us a fortune because they didn't know who we were, and we thought they were going to come and ruin the space and have, biker fights and all this stuff, which, again, after the event, they were blown away, welcomed us back, basically cut the price in half for the next event. We've even talked about maybe moving Born Free there, like Del Mar Bike Week, but Born Free someday.
And these are places, just for the benefit of people that are listening, that are like typically horse racing tracks, right?
Del Mar is like the premier. It's one. In California for sure, Del Mar Raceway or track or whatever they want to call it is one of the premier horse racing venues in the world.
Yeah.
This is where all the rich people come with their fancy hats and clothes, and they have the Del Mar Fair there. And but they've also had a rich history of motorcycling and racing. You know, they did the Del Mar Mile years ago, which was like, you know, Google it, go back in time. I mean, it was some of the most iconic racing with the best racers anywhere in the world raced Del Mar. Very cool. So we wanted to go back there, even though it wasn't on the mile, it was on the short track, which we've actually talked to them about the mile. So if horse racing were to ever stop, and it may in the near future.
Because all the injuries and stuff like that? Or
I mean, from what I understand, that's a big part. And
there's a lot going on in that space right now.
Yeah.
We won't get into that, but.
Yeah, you know, the whole deal. So if that were the case, I mean, we could potentially possibly do the mile, which, I mean, if you've ever seen a mile race, there's nothing scarier. I mean,
yeah, dude, those guys are
they get
I mean, they're
flying.
They're well over 100 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're flying.
Jeez,
and it's a dangerous, I mean, flat track racing in general is dangerous. As easy as it looks, it is the most dangerous racing you can do. But the mile is like another
I think
level.
they still do it in Sacramento.
They do.
Sacramento mile, yeah.
They do, which is incredible.
Hauling when they come by. They're hauling.
So we wanted to go there to do something at a historic venue, right? So we paid up to do it. We had a great time. Harley was involved. We had racers from everywhere. We treat our racers the way we treat the people at the show. I mean, we treat them like gold. We give them, you know, prize money, trophies, swag, jerseys, gifts, patches, number plates, everything. And we've got a list of people that want to race. So anytime we throw a race together, we just put it out there. Immediately, I've got the full roster. If it's not already people returning. Yeah. So we don't have to go out and beg people to race. We do have to beg people to watch, because spectator stuff is just, it's tough. And anybody who's doing racing will tell you, to get spectators to watch a race is a difficult thing to do. Yeah. So we try to make it more fun, right? So we throw bikes in there, a little chopper show. We'll throw, or you know, at the Del Mar, we had San Diego and all those bikes. Throw vendors in there. We'll do a giveaway like we did with you guys. We had that fun time. We built the Sportster and gave it away at one of the races. Yeah. So we try to do more. You know, we'll throw a band in there or something like that, because as much as we love racing, and God, I hope it doesn't die off, it's just really hard to get people out, especially in Southern California, to come and watch. Mm-hmm. You know, even though the ticket's cheap and all that, it's just, I don't know if they're just too busy or they got away from it, or it's just not as popular to younger people these days.
A lot of competition for people's time.
That's true. You know, in Southern California, there's a lot to do. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, you got traffic and stuff like that. So, you know, having a race in industry on a Thursday night, guy gets off work at 5 in, you know, Orange County or San Diego or LA or whatever. I'm not sure he wants to jump on the freeway.
Yep.
But we try to do the best we can, and we've had some really exciting events, and we've had a lot of good turnout. Like I said, with help with you guys. I think we had Laidlaw's bike Harley night, right, at a couple of the Stampedes.
Yeah, it happened to be the same night as Stampede, I think, last year.
Yeah. I think we've done it, twice.
We've done it twice, yeah. You know? And I remember you talked about it going till 10. I remember being there till, like, the races going on till, like, 11:30. And so, like, you know, come after work, you know, you're going to have plenty of, you know, action to watch and everything.
Yeah, Kelly and them, they did a good job of running that, because I think they have a sound curfew at a certain time. It has to cut off at a certain time of the night because of where they're located and so close to houses and stuff. But they push the envelope, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, maybe
they do a good job of keeping everything running and keeping it exciting, and like they do a good job.
Kelly's crew, Kelly Inman's crew is next level. I mean, I will tell you right now, we would not do a race without Kelly's crew. And they came to Santa Maria with us, they came to Del Mar with us. Awesome. So it's not just industry. It doesn't get any better. I mean, they keep everybody in check, everybody in line. You don't wait around. You know where you're going. You know when your heat is, your main. I mean, everything. I race myself, so I've been to a lot of races that are so confused. Guys missing heats, missing mains. They have no idea what's going on. You know, it's a nightmare. There's a lot of politics that are played on some of these races. There's a lot of beefs going on. Our deal, we make it fun. We have a writers meeting. I'll tell them right up front. If you want to win and you think you're going to be somebody special from winning, you just don't race, because this is fun. You know, if you do win, great, congratulations. We'll support you. We'll take your picture, all that. But this is fun. Yeah. Don't hurt anybody. Don't get wild. Don't get nuts. Don't fight. And again, we've been lucky. Everybody that races at our races, I mean, they'll tell us, which I appreciate because I love the racing a lot. It's probably the most, is how great of a time they had and how well they were taken care of, and that they never thought. I mean, they always knew where they were. with the race. And as you know, like with all those riders, 150 riders is a lot of people to wrangle.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we try to make it safe as well too. We'll bore you with details, but just like limiting the number of riders and heats. And when you add more heats, it takes more time.
Yeah.
You know, but we try to keep the events flowing well, and you're not held hostage there, and it doesn't last forever. Some of them do, but the last few have been really on time, and the riders appreciate it. And you know, and then we can go home a little earlier too.
Yeah.
I don't really like being out there till 2 a.m. and then go to Born Free the next day.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I'll have to try to make an effort to go to the Del Mar, and you said Santa Maria was where you had a show. Like, I didn't make it out there, and it just sounds cool. I mean, I love all the shows you guys do, so I might have to make more of an effort to get out there. Very cool. Let's talk too a little bit about you know, your giveaway. I think a kind of a big draw to the show is like all the bikes you guys give away at the show over 2 days. It's like,
I was blown away by that too.
you know, and I just, you know, one bike in particular that I'm kind of invested at this point, open to win. Maybe if I win, someone will say it's rigged, but you know, I buy my tickets just like everybody else. But the knucklehead, that red knucklehead that you guys have this year, like as soon as I saw that, I was like, okay. I even told Keith, I was like, this thing is gorgeous. What is it, a 48?
It's a 39.
A 39, excuse me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a 39. So we've been giving away bikes since Born Free 2. So we hatched the plan Born Free 2 because no one, I'm sure it'd been done, right? But not in this space, not in this time. So we decided to build a panhead chopper. So we had some other partners at the time in the show, and we built this, mainly they did, built the bike out in Chino at my buddy's shop. We got all the parts. We had some people donate some stuff. We had our buddy who was a partner at the time paint it and had a good time with it and gave it away at the show. We just decided we'd sell little tickets and, you know, do all that kind of stuff. And it worked out great. It's exploded since then. You know, we went from 1 bike a year to 2 bikes a year to 3 bikes a year and 4, you know, sometimes it's 4 bikes a year.
Yeah.
And we've given away over 30 bikes.
Dang.
You know, everything from, you know, panhead, knucklehead, shovelhead, always a Harley.
Yeah.
New as well. You know, every year we not only give away the vintage stuff, but we give away a brand new Harley. So, and we've given away, you know, lowrider S's. We've given away whatever the hot bike is of the time. Some last or a few years ago was a Fat Bob and all this stuff. But the last 2 years we were able to do some customizing on it. So last year we got a Street Bob, and we actually worked with the dealer, Orange County Harley, to do a custom version. So they did the Stage 4 kit, and we reached out to some of our trade partners and got some parts and created this kind of a custom bike. And it was great beyond the old stuff as well. And then this year with our new lowrider, we did a big number on it at a bike shop in Orange, our motorcycle tire center. We added all kinds of parts to it. And now it's over at Speed Merchant getting its final stuff done. So this is a fully customized, but brand new lowrider S.
Cool.
That's awesome.
You know,
awesome.
So, you know, this is an expensive bike to begin with, and then you're throwing thousands and thousands of dollars of the best aftermarket parts on there. So it's going to be fun, and Harley's allowed us to do that, and it's been great. So there's that, but we also have the 39 Knucklehead, which you want.
Yeah.
And then we had, because of the FXR craze, we've had Chip and Mikey at San Diego Customs. They're building us a full custom FXR.
Right on.
I mean, their builds aren't cheap.
No.
Those are, you know,
No.
$50,000 builds.
Yeah.
This is a complete ground up build, everything. You know, there's a lot of one-off parts. They're doing their brand new wheels. They're working with, you know, S&S on some stuff. They're working with all the high performance stuff. I mean, it's going to be a killer bike. I mean, full sound system, paint job, the whole deal. So
Rad.
we've done tons of vintage bikes, and we'll always continue to do that. But we also want to give away what the people want, you know, or give some diversity. So, you know, we've had guys, and a lot of times we'll give them a choice. If there's 2 bikes on one day, like, you know, if they win, they come up and they get to choose the bike they want. We've had guys pick the new bike over the old bike.
Really?
Yep. Because they got like, oh man, I got a panhead. You know, I really want a new bike. You know, a lot of people are like, what are you doing?
Well, see, I have a new bike. I don't have
Exactly.
the vintage knucklehead, so I'm getting that knucklehead.
Well, it's a crazy world because, like, you know, those like guys like me or you, like I wouldn't have the extra money to buy a older bike like that, but I'd love to have one.
Yeah.
I would pick that one every day because when do you come across it, and then if they're willing to sell it or not, and like, dude, that's wild.
If I win, it's going on display right on the showroom floor, right in front of my office.
That's not that it matters. I mean, that's a $70,000 bike.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, I
what
mean,
value
the
is.
knucklehead stuff has gone through the roof. I mean, that thing is super correct. It's been restored, which a lot of guys want that old look, but it's been completely restored years ago, but done correctly. I mean, I think everything but maybe the toolbox and the muffler are original.
Wow.
You know, which is I mean, and they're quality U.S. reproductions.
Rare, yeah.
So it's a killer bike, and we've given away. Unfortunately, a lot of these were mine, or I bought them with the intent on keeping them. But last year we gave away an amazing old flathead. I mean, it had like Von Dutch pinstriping on it and stuff like that. You know, and the year before was this barn find knucklehead that was like you know. These kind of bikes you just don't win. You don't win in a raffle or a contest or promo, whatever you want to call it.
No.
You got to
find gorgeous like bikes that people hang on to like their entire life. Like these are like you enter into like a vintage show, you're winning that show, like in a lot of cases.
Out of I think the 30 plus bikes, I think 3 have been sold. I want to say 3.
Oh, so they hang on to them. That's great.
Rest of them still have them and still ride them to the show. I mean, every year these guys will show up and they're part of the invited guest area. If they ride their bike to the show, one of the old bikes they've won. In fact, 2 years ago, we had a guy won a bike at Born Free 3. He won another bike. You know?
I saw that Instagram post.
Yeah. So the other thing too, since I'm here and I'll tell you, is that the giveaways aren't rigged. Okay, that's number one. There's no point in rigging it.
Yeah,
we have no reason to. We want people to win. We don't care who wins the bike. I hope you win the bike. And if you don't win it, I hope you do. You know, and if you guys don't win, I hope some person who doesn't even own a motorcycle, who's always wanted one, wins the bike. Like we don't have. I mean, whoever wins it is great. We do our best to sell these tickets and posters. It's a combo everywhere, whether it's online or whether it's all the events we attend. And we do meet a lot of people. So a guy comes up to the booth at Long Beach Swap Meet and says, "Hey, I want to buy a poster ticket combo for your giveaway." And we start talking to the guy. And, "Hey, all right, Joe, see you later." Well, Joe wins the bike at the show, and it's like they think we know the guy. And it's like I met the guy at the swap meet. Like
talked to him once.
Yeah, I mean, but that's we've gone over that. Like it is what it is. We've had friends win. I mean, we've had 3 or 4 friends, close friends win, but they bought the tickets, whether they bought them at the show, online, or in an event. They're in a drum on stage. We spin that thing around. We film it every direction we possibly can. We pull a kid from the audience that we don't know, have them put their hand in there, roll it around, filming the thing, hold the ticket up without anybody looking at it, read the name off. Yeah. It's it.
Yeah.
It's mainly the people that aren't at the show that think these things, not just with us, but everywhere is fake or rigged. In fact, yesterday, this is crazy, Grant won a bike.
Oh yeah.
I've never won anything on any of these raffles, and there's a million of them going on Instagram or whatever. He won a bike. He won a killer Sturgis shovel head, like a 82, 81,
nice.
whatever.
It was one of your raffles?
No, of course not. No, so that's the other thing too, real quick.
Well, we should clarify that for the viewers.
Our stuff, any of our promo giveaways, no one that works for Born Free is allowed to participate.
Yeah.
If it's a volunteer or somebody like that, some guy we hired, parking attendant, he wanted to buy one, sure. But obviously myself, Grant, immediate family, Chris, people like that. And that's never happened. This raffle was an Instagram raffle. It was a privateer guy in Utah. Grant won. And, of course, everybody gets on there and starts talking crap. You know, of course, it's the Born Free guy. This is the foot in the door. You know, how is this possible? Geez. It's like the guy bought a ticket. That's how it's possible.
Yeah.
He bought a ticket. They pulled his name. He won.
Dude, if I won, I would almost feel bad for you guys because I know how much flack you would get if Matt Laidlaw won the bike at Born Free.
Yeah, well.
But, you know, I deal with a ton of the negative internet stuff all the time. Obviously, I do a ton online, and there's always going to be naysayers. There's always going to be the doubters. There's always going to be guys that, you know, it's not fair or it's rigged or there's this conspiracy theory. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. But, you know, I think calling up a random kid out of the audience to pull the ticket, how can you get any more random than that? I mean,
plus, it makes a kid's day, man. They're up there on
That's
stage,
kinda cool,
and they get to pull a ticket for a motorcycle. I think that's the best thing ever.
Oh, it's so much fun, and you know, again, it gets more people engaged, right? So now this guy brought his kid to the show, who thought we were a couple of jerks and wanted to check it out. Just had his kid on the stage with 20,000 people watching and cameras everywhere and media everywhere and everybody looking, and his little son's up there, and we're giving him high fives and giving him skateboards and
that's cool,
and swag and all that. And we do that a lot. I mean, I probably give away 300 skateboards at the show to kids just walking around. You know, they're not asking, just hand it to them. So there's all kinds of stuff. But the giveaways are definitely a lot of fun, you know, and it's been a good program for us. And it definitely it doesn't make us any money, I'll tell you. It's a break even if we're lucky. But it's a way to promote the show. And
when you're giving away $70,000 bikes, like, you got to sell a lot of tickets.
And we don't. I mean, to be honest, I mean, we're kind of at a point where we're basically sell the same amount every year. it's not a lot. The odds are fantastic. I mean, it's not like these big giveaways where they're selling thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of tickets. It's really great odds.
Well, you got to be at the show too, right? So that even narrows it down even further.
So this year, because 2 of the winners last year, although they were at the show, we made it where you didn't have to be present to win, right? So we've flip-flopped that a few times, trying it out as we get feedback, right? So if, guys in the military and he's deployed, he's like, man, I'd love to win one of your bikes, but I never could come to your show. So we're like, well, you know what, next year we're going to try to do, you don't have to be present to win one of the bikes. So we did that. So last year you didn't have to be present to win any of the bikes. One guy was there, which was great because we want to see you up on stage, take your picture, have you jump around, scream, cry, whatever. Yeah. But 2 weren't. And it's kind of a buzzkill. You just had this amazing show. It's Sunday. It's the close of the show. And you call in names and they're not there. Mm-hmm. So this year we decided, hey, let's go back to, you got to be there to win the bikes. But the cool thing about our promos is that we give away all kinds of other stuff. So it's not just the bikes. If you can't, you can't come to the show. So let's say you're living in Oklahoma and I can't come to the show, but I want to buy a $25 ticket and poster. So you get this original piece of art, and then you're entered to win a Simpson helmet every month. You're entered to win a S&S motor. We've given away 5 knuckleheads and panheads and all this stuff. Lindell wheels or stuff from Harley or any of our sponsors that, that want to participate in some of our giveaways. So we've given away hundreds of things throughout the years that aren't the bikes. Yeah. So it's for $25, it's a heck of a deal, Yeah. So this year, you got to be there to win. We want you up on stage. We want to see your face. We want your picture. We want your reactions. I mean, we've had everything from, guy couldn't even say a word to guy doing a flip on the stage, crying, screaming.
Speechless.
Yeah. I mean, crowd surfing, whatever. It's a mixed thing, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, it makes it worth it. And it also helps show what we did.
Yeah.
And
makes it more real for the people that are there too. Like to maybe try again next year. It's like, hey, this was a Joe Schmo guy that just won this awesome bike. And because it just adds kind of to the environment too. Like, oh, there's this guy. Anyways, everything you just said. So
yeah. And all those people in front of the stage waiting for us to pull. I mean, we're throwing helmets at them. We're throwing, thousands of dollars worth of stuff at those people at the crowd. So it's like, this money is not that is important to us. I mean, we want people to have fun. We want to stoke them out. We want to let them know, God, I went to Born Free. I'm standing in front of the stage. A guy handed me a $400 Simpson helmet or a Harley gift certificate to a dealer for $500 or, something. So there's all kinds of stuff going on. And, we just want to try to promote the fun of all this. And it is a lot of fun if you just let go all the crap. Like you were talking, all the hate and the politics and everything else, just go and have fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Grant brought that home to me when we were talking at the Stampede. I was like, so what's next, man? He's like, dude, I hope it keeps going for 10 more years. But if it doesn't, if it all comes off the rails tomorrow, man, it was a great ride. And we had a lot of fun, and we met a lot of really cool people. I was like, bro, that is an amazing attitude to have. This huge thing's going on, and it's all about the fun. It was really cool. When he said that, I was like, oh, that's a gem right there. I'm going to keep that one for a while.
Yeah, I mean, Grant and Mike are about the community and the love of the sport, the love of motorcycling. It's not about, how much money they can put in their bank account. It's for the love of the game. And, that was actually another question I wanted to ask you, Mike. I mean, is this like your full-time gig now, or do you still have your other profession that pays the bills? Or
Yeah, I still work full-time.
So you do this on top of your regular job. Wow. Yep. Okay, that's impressive.
So I have 4 kids, one just graduated college, one's in college, and then 2 younger ones. So, I mean, I can't stop working. I mean, this is fun. And it's a labor of love, and I enjoy it, and we do make money at it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it is income.
Should.
Yeah, I mean the amount of work that goes into this thing, I think it shows in the show, like you'd mentioned. It's a 11-month out of the year, job. We take about a month off, and then it's, especially for me. I mean, Grant does a lot as well. It's back to, every day. Mm-hmm. And then I run the Instagram for the most part. He'll contribute, and we have some other folks, but. I mean, you know how that is. That's a full-time job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
To keep the content up and make it entertaining and people want to look at it and like it and follow and all that. I mean, people hire people for that, and I'm doing it. We're doing it.
On top of everything else.
Yeah, so it never ends. I mean, but I need the, the steady income. I need the health insurance and all that good stuff. Grant's a little different position. He's married, and his wife works and does well. And he flips bikes and parts and hustles, but he doesn't have a regular full-time job. But like you said, if the show, we've said this a million times to anybody who listen, the day it stops being fun, we will not do it.
Yeah.
The money we make at it is great, but it's not worth doing the show if it's not fun, and it's a big hassle and a big problem, and we just stopped doing it. Let's go do a model train show or something like that.
Well, we're running a little bit short on time now, but one of the things I wanted to touch on too was the aspect of the grass pass. I always tell people, first of all, if you're just going to go to one motorcycle show in a year, Born Free is the best. And we won't even ask Mike's opinion of that because you'd all think he was biased, but I've been to a lot of motorcycle shows. I think Keith has too. Yep. And Born Free is awesome, especially if you live in Southern California and you're just going to go to one show. Born Free is by far the best. And it's worth traveling for too. Like a lot of the rides I go on and things like that, I tell people, if you're local, if you're in the area, go on the ride. Or if you're local and you're in the area, go to this show. Born Free is one of those things that it's worth traveling to. Like I don't want to compare it to Sturgis, but people travel from around the world to go to Sturgis. This show, you just do it, once. It's worth traveling to go to. It's that big and it's that good. So let's go into the grass pass thing, because I think one of the coolest things. I always buy the grass pass every time I go. By the way, talk a little bit about the grass pass in other, I guess, parking situations. I think it's just so cool to ride onto the grass and like be part of the big environment and the big show. Talk just briefly about that.
So we have, the admission, there's two ways to do it. We'll talk about the grass pass first. So we came up with this idea because we ride motorcycles. So like a lot of other promoters they're not in the space that they're promoting. They don't know how it works or what the benefits are. So we decided to sell this pass, this band you wear, and you need one if you have a passenger. The passenger needs one as well. And you go in a different line. You don't wait. You flash your pass. And last year we had a scanner. We bring you right in. You don't take your helmet off. You don't turn your bike off to pay for admission and all the crap that happens when you go to a show. Then you can't start your bike, or it's overheating, or, a million other issues that bikers have. So we created this thing where we called it the Fast Pass at first, kind of like Disneyland. And then we just decided to call it the Grass Pass. So you buy it. It's the same as admission. We only sell 3,000 of them per day. So the show's 2 days. We didn't cover that, but we went to a 2-day show because there's just too much to do, too much to see. So each day we sell 3,000, and those are pre-sold, and we're almost sold out for Saturday now, and I think we have a little bit of Sunday left. You buy them online, you buy them from us at an event, even though there hasn't been a lot of events, Long Beach Swap Meet, whatever, and then that gets you in this line. So you get in early. So as soon as the show is set, our official hours are 10 to 5, but literally we open at 8. So if you're there and we're ready, we let the grass passers in. So the benefits of having it is you get, like you said, you get to come right in. You don't get off your bike. You show them your band. They check it. You go right in. You park your bike on the grass. You essentially become the show. Now, whether you want to show your bike, you're proud of it, you want to show it, or you just want to park on the grass and smuggle in beer or be with your friends or whatever, it's a great way you're in. And it also, that's the other reason why we limit our vendors, is we want enough room for motorcycles. I mean, that's the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. So you come in and now you're on the grass, you're in the shade or wherever you are, your bike's part of the show, and it's a great thing. And it doesn't matter if you're riding a brand new bike and you're parked next to a knucklehead. We don't separate them. We have our little areas like we talked about that have all these different nuances going on, but if you're riding and you're on a BMW tour bike and you're on a brand new Harley, you guys are coming in together, you're staying together. We're not telling you to go over here and you to go over there and try to create this separation, and then you're pissed and like you want to be with your buddies. So it's worked out really well. So the grass passes do sell out, and we're almost out of Saturday. We would have been well out before. That usually goes after a few months of selling, but the COVID thing and the show's still up in the air, and we've had some challenges. But Sunday we still have quite a few. And then we have just general admission. General admission is if you're driving your car, or if you're riding a bike, or you're riding a moped, and you park in the parking lot and you walk up and you pay at the gate. That's day of. This is always tricky every year. We don't do a great job of explaining everything. We probably need to have like a YouTube or a video how to do admission, because this is the most asked question all year long. Yeah. And then when we sell out of grass passes, people think we're sold out of the show. We try to explain to them, no, that's just to have your bike inside. You can still park in the parking lot. You pay at the gate. You walk in. We'll never sell that out. Or if we did, we'd be rich. But so there's those two things. General admission is day of only, and then the grass pass we pre-sell because we only have a certain amount of room. Once we get to that number, that's it. Because between the 3,000 bikes that we sell to and all of our vendors and sponsors, there's probably another 1,000 bikes. There's 4,000 motorcycles inside the grounds.
It's huge.
Then you go in the parking lot and you could have a bike show in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, we've got the drone footage. I mean, there's 5, 6, 7, 8,000 bikes in the parking lot.
Yeah.
You know, so it's pretty incredible. But
I recommend everybody, if you can get the grass pass, get it, because it's worth it. To just roll up on the grass, park your bike on the grass, and you're literally footsteps from like the main show.
Yeah, it's pretty.
Yeah,
cool.
you're
It's such a cool venue.
You're in front of the stage. You're in front of the, you know, San Diego area, in front of, you know, sponsors. Like you're not crammed way over there. I mean, we do have a lot of bikes to park, so not everybody can be right up front. But if you get there early, you're coming up front. So we work from the stage back, but you're still inside. You know, you're not out there in the dirt. So if you know, it's still dusty, but if you have some show bike you want to show, and you know, this is a great, and that's another way to get involved, whether you're trying to win an award or you want to be a builder. We walk the grounds. I mean, Grant and I and others all day long. I mean, I think last year I walked 22 miles on Saturday. We walk the grounds and we're looking for bikes and we're marking them for awards, or we're talking to guys who rode from, we have a rider award and stuff like that with our awards, you know, and we have to find those people, you know, and like, cool. Oh man, your bike's cool. Oh, I rode from Florida just to come to your show. And we, you know, get him up on stage or give him an award or do something and acknowledge that this guy just rode all the way out here from Florida on a Sportster or whatever, you know. So we try to make people feel special as we can, you know, and make them feel like they're welcome and wanted. You know, a lot of shows don't do that. I mean, I've gone to a lot of shows before we even started this, and you know, they're yelling at you over here, yelling at you over there, don't care if you're there or not. Like, we care that all those people are there and want to make sure that they're all having fun, and if there's anything we can do to make their experience better, we will. And
it shows. I mean, I felt that, you know, right away. And I think everybody that goes there feels like, hey, I'm part of this community. This isn't some type of like niche group clique in Southern California where if you don't know somebody, you're not. I mean, there's so many people there. It's so inclusive that it's a really cool environment. Talk a little bit, Mike, about so your show's normally in August, right? And it's June. Sorry, your show's usually in June, and you've delayed it at this point to September. Talk a little bit about that, and talk a little bit about how COVID is kind of changing your schedule a little bit.
So yeah, usually we do it the week after Father's Day, the weekend. Okay, so it's a 2-day show, and then we threw the race in there like we talked about. It's usually the Thursday night. So this year it was the 27th and 8th of June, and then right about April-ish, we started thinking that this isn't going to be able to happen for June. You know, the COVID thing was really exploding, and it was just not the right time to even consider doing it in June. So we figured, well, if we move it out 5 months, we should be in a safe zone. We didn't want to get into October, because out in that area where we're in, where the show is, you know, they get the Santa Ana winds and stuff like that. And October can be a tricky month. You can have some severe heat, and you can have a lot of wind, and there's fire danger and all the things that are associated with that weather pattern. So we decided, you know, the end of September is a good time. Typically it's cooler than June, and you still have the leaves on the trees, because that area, like, you know, if you haven't been there, it's a big park, and the trees and the grass and the beauty of it is part of what makes the show what it is. So going out there, you know, in the dead of winter with, you know, dead grass and no leaves would give a different look. Yeah. So we figured that end of September date, and also being mindful and aware of others that were doing shows in September, not to step on dates and stuff like that. That was really the only date we can do. So we changed it to the 26th and 7th of September, which is coming up here, you know, basically 2 months from now. Mm-hmm. The COVID thing has definitely been a challenge. And it's not just for the show and for us, but, you know, all the builders that were building bikes that, you know, had to deal with this serious issue, and then not having, you know, places open, you know, parts houses or chromers or painters or whatever. So it's been a challenge for everybody. You know, the show's 2 months away, and anything can happen in 2 months. I mean, it's changing every single day. As if anybody's following this stuff, like, there's no rhyme or reason to any of it. Mm-hmm. One day we're looking great and everything's going great. And in fact, Orange County, people don't know, it's a lot different than LA County and stuff like that. Orange County was way ahead of the curve. And I mean, they were going to go to stage 4 on July 1st, which a lot of people didn't know that. That's everything. I mean, stage 4 is basically everything's open, large events and everything. Okay. That obviously changed with, you know, the latest cases and data and all that stuff, whether you believe it or you don't, whatever. It's there.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It is. And, you know, we understand motorcyclists, you know, they have a free spirit, and they want to go no matter what. But and we want to have the show no matter what. However, we have to be mindful and careful and people's safety, and we want the look of the show. We also want the experience to be the same. Coming to your Firstborn Free, or if you've been to all of them, we want to make sure that you're getting the experience that you expect, and we want to live up to all those expectations. So doing some cut rate show under protest without all the nuances that the show offers, like, we don't want to do that. It's not fair to our sponsors. It's not fair to all builders. It's not fair to the people that are coming. So we want to try to have the show as close as possible as to the previous year, with a bunch of the new ads that we're doing. So there's a bunch of new stuff to make it even better. So we're monitoring the situation every day. We deal with the county, the site owner, who's been great, the sheriff, the health department, all the agencies involved. I mean, we literally talk to them every day, if not every other day, to get the latest intel, get their gut feeling what it's going to be. As of today, we're 2 months out. We're still planning on having the show. We have a big meeting next week, I think August 3rd or 4th. That day is probably going to be a real, kind of a sign if this is really going to happen or not.
And where do people get updated information, like your website, your Instagram?
Yeah, so we definitely post everything we get on Instagram. So that's a key to follow. Most of the stuff just transfers over to Facebook. I don't like Facebook. I don't like going on there. I don't answer a lot of questions on Facebook. And I know a lot of people just do Facebook. They don't do Instagram. But if you do Instagram, or if you're thinking about it, that's where we put 99% of everything we do out there. We'll certainly put it on our website, and then we'll transfer everything to Facebook too, if that's where people go to get their information. But we want to keep everybody informed as anything were to change. And if there's any way we cannot have the show, we want to have everything in place on what to do. So whether you bought a giveaway promo poster ticket combo and you want to know what we're going to do there, or you bought a grass pass, or you're a vendor, or you're a sponsor, or a builder, whatever it is, we want to have a plan in place so you know exactly what the protocol is going to be and how all that's going to look. So you're not worried about it, or you're not questioning everything, or you're thinking you're getting cheated on something or whatever. I know some of the shows have had to cancel and postpone over the last several months, and some of them have done a good job at that and some of them haven't. So we want to make sure that we have all the information out there, the reasons why. We're not going to make up some story. We're going to tell the reasons why we can't have the show. If we can't, we're still optimistic about having it. I mean, we're working every day on everything. I mean, we just spent $20,000 on merchandise. I wouldn't have done that if I thought there's still not a chance we can do this show, and all of our builders are busting their butt every day to get their bikes done. So we're pushing forward, but in the event it doesn't happen, we just want to make sure that everybody's informed. They can get the information clearly, easily. They know exactly what's going to happen and how all that's going to work and look,
Cool.
but we're keeping our fingers crossed, and we're hoping that this thing gets under control. The main thing too is we want to make sure that we have the show the way we want to have it. We've said this a million times. It's a social show.
Yeah.
So the idea of social distancing doesn't really work for us.
Right.
The hugging, the kissing, the shaking hands, the looking at the bikes, the sharing a cup, the sharing a beer, or eating a hamburger or hot dog, or eating fries out of your buddy's, lunchbox. I mean, that's what the show's about. I mean, we got people laying on the grass and taking a nap and hanging out and making out and doing whatever they're doing, and doing something where you're wearing a mask and you can't do any of that.
Kills the vibe.
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly try our hardest to do everything we can to make this happen, and if we have to make some concessions, we will keep people safe. But the show it's a social event. Even if you don't like motorcycles, you can come to the show and get your money's worth and then some, just on everything we mentioned: the bands, the skateboarding, the people watching, the Ferris wheel, the petting zoo, whatever it may be. There's plenty to do.
Yeah. One day it was kind of interesting. I follow Mike on Instagram, and he threw out a post. It was like a picture of Bigfoot or something, if I remember right. And he just said something like, does anybody out there have an experience, or have they ever had a sighting of Bigfoot? And if so, I want to know about it. And talk for a second, Mike, about what's your recent fascination of Bigfoot? What's that all about?
Well, I've always been fascinated with Bigfoot. I mean, any monster stuff, really, even since I was little. I love monster movies, horror movies, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot. I mean, I grew up in the 70s and older than you guys, but, In Search Of and the $6 Million Man, all the shows that were on in the 70s that had some kind of Bigfoot connection, like, I was into it. I saw the old Bigfoot footage, that was in the 60s, and just, in grammar school when they did those book things where you order book fair, I'd always get Bigfoot books or, legend books or something like that. I don't know why. I was just always into it. And then, like last, I don't know, 10 years ago, there was Bigfoot shows on TV, documentaries and finding Bigfoot and all this crap. So, I just started watching it just like the bike stuff, like any of that reality TV I was into. So I just got super into it. And then, I don't know, it was a couple years ago, I was having a conversation with, actually a buddy of mine, Jason Weber and Turkey Stopnick, and they were into Bigfoot. I had no idea that anybody was even into Bigfoot. Right. And that we started talking about it and like, what it is and where it is and all this stuff like that. And then they turned me onto this podcast, this Sasquatch Chronicles podcast. I don't know if you guys listen to it or not.
No, I haven't.
It's amazing, right? This guy, Wes, he's up in Seattle or Pacific Northwest, and he basically just has real encounters on there. It's not a bunch of crap, like some of the TV shows are out there hooping and hollering and acting stupid. Like these are real people that have nothing to gain.
Sure.
Sharing their experience, like nothing at all. Mm-hmm. So I listen to that thing religiously, and then there's a few others out there, and just figuring out like, man, there's a lot of people that are into it, and a lot of people are saying this thing. I've never seen one. I want to, trust me, badly. And we've gone camping and we're making trips and stuff like that. And we're planning. In fact, the whole COVID thing really blew everything open because we were going to go in March and May and all this stuff like that. And been researching spots even in Southern California. I read all kinds of old accounts. Believe it or not, Southern California has a rich history of Bigfoot, wild man, whatever you want to call it, sightings. You can go back and look at, Long Beach press from 18 whatever, and, some hairy wild man's looking in a window in Long Beach, and certainly Long Beach looked different back then. And then up in the mountains, obviously, that's everywhere. And like I said, I grew up in Fresno, which is at the foothills of the Sierra Mountains, or, of the Sierras. So there's a lot of stuff going on up there. So anyway, I don't know why. I'm just totally obsessed with it, read, watch. So then I threw some stuff out there, just like I was selling a bunch of stuff, and I just was trying to make jokes. I'm like, I'm selling it all to become a Bigfoot researcher, because people like, they see me selling 50 things. They're like, what are you doing? You moving? I'm like, well, I'm trying to move too, but yeah, I'm selling it so I could, do my Bigfoot research. So it started to become like a joke. Uh-huh. And then it's funny. Then you hit me up and you told me that you had like an encounter.
Yeah, so let me get into that. So it was the winter it was like January of 2001. I was actually up in a little town called Greenville. It's like Northern California. It's like north of Tahoe area. It's by a lake called Lake Almanor. You can look it up. Not very many people know about it or go there, but there's Greenville and there's Chester. And it's kind of by Susanville a little bit. Anyway, so I was actually up there. I was actually on a church service mission, for my church, and my companion and I, my buddy who I was working with, we were driving down the road in our Toyota Camry, and it was snowing outside. There was snow all over. It was snow on the road, and we were driving, pretty carefully. And up in the distance, we were just outside of like Greenville, if you want to know the location, which a lot of the sightings are in Northern California. A lot of sightings are in California, so that all, checks off, and it makes sense. But we saw what looked like a furry animal. And by the way, just as a disclaimer, I don't really buy into that. I'm not, if you know me, I'm a pretty logical guy. I don't really try to believe in mythological creatures and stuff like that. But I know what I saw, and I'm just going to tell you guys what I saw. And my only logical explanation is that I saw a Bigfoot, a Sasquatch. I cannot think of anything else it could have been. So we look up in the distance. It was probably about the length of a football field in front of us, 100 yards. And it was like crouched. And then all of a sudden, it was on four legs, what looked like legs. And then all of a sudden, it stood up on two hind legs, and it had to have been 7 to 8 feet tall. It was a furry, like I thought it was like a skinny bear at first, and then it got up on two legs, and then it ran on two legs. And I don't know much about bears, but I don't think they can run really fast on two legs.
And if they do run, I've seen them walk, but I've never seen them run.
Yeah, I don't think they run except for if they're on all fours.
Especially in the wild, you might be able to train one to do that, but not a wild.
I've never seen a bear run this fast on four legs, or on two legs. Excuse me. This thing got up. It was very tall, a little bit more slender than your typical bear, and it ran off into the woods on two legs. And then my buddy and I looked at each other at the same time, and we just like wide eyes and just said, neither one of us wanted to say it because neither one of us wanted to be the guy that's like, oh, I just saw a Bigfoot. But we're like almost at the exact same time. We're like, is that a Bigfoot? Like, I could not believe my eyes. And I thought about it. I still think about it to this day because I still have that image ingrained in my head of this creature standing up on two legs, super tall and taller than me. I'm 6'6", taller than me. And we were driving towards it. And as we got maybe 50 yards away or so, that's when we kind of spooked it or whatever. And it just like ran off into the woods or whatever. So that's my encounter. That's my experience. Take it for what it is.
I'm like Mike. I've never had an encounter, but I really wish I would. Like, I spent countless hundreds of hours as a kid hiking and camping, and every night you go on, Bigfoot hunt, snipe hunt, whatever you want to call it. Go running around the wilderness at night or in the desert or whatever, looking for whatever you can find out there. But man, I mean, if you've spent any time out in the wild in California or Northern California, Oregon, Washington, it's entirely possible, man. There's some areas out there that you ain't never going to get to unless you want to walk 3, 4, 5 days, on your own. They're not accessible by roads. It's super remote. And, I was watching some Bigfoot stuff last night. My kids were like, what are you watching Bigfoot for? I was like, we're having a podcast tomorrow, man. And I'm like, I'm really interested in this stuff. And the one guy that I came across, he was actually on Rogan's podcast as this guy named Les Stroud, Survivor Man. And he went and spent like a whole week out in the wilderness in like Canada searching for, any signs of Bigfoot. And he just to straight up tell you, like, I didn't have an encounter. I believe they're real. And he gives a lot of like information about it. And the biggest compelling argument is like in his area, the Native American tribes, they have like, there's like 200, he said there was 200 different names for Bigfoot, Squatch, whatever you want to call it. But in their own language, they have two different, and why would they have that? And so like, and he was explaining how like they have all these rituals in their tribes and they're all based on real creatures like the eagle, the bear, the deer, the caribou, all these different, they all have their own like little part of their, and in the middle of like 21 different like creatures that we've all seen, there's a Bigfoot, like straight up, no denying that there's a Bigfoot image and name for it and everything. Like, and why would these people have this that are relative? I mean, they're modern now, but when they came across all stuff, they weren't like highly contacted by Westerners or whatever. And so he's like pointing out, like, why would they have that if they've never seen one? They wouldn't make that up. Like, why would they make that up?
There's no TV to kind of learn about it.
So then he was explaining too, like that area, the Pacific Northwest, and how, like the theory of how people migrated from when the landmass was one big landmass across, the Alaska area and down through the north is like where people normally have these sightings is like, makes a lot of sense. Like, hey, dude, that's where these things could be. And I would trip out on it. I mean, I wish I had the time and effort to go find one. I'd go be searching for it too.
Well, Matt, I hate you because you saw one. But yeah, that's like a Class A sighting, man. That's like I'm like a Bigfoot expert. No one's really a Bigfoot expert, right? Because most of these people have never seen one, so they call themselves that. But I've watched hours and hours. I mean, thousands and thousands of hours of shows. I've listened to every podcast, read books, and exactly what you just said. It's down on 4 legs. The thing stands up, runs across the road. I mean, thousands and thousands of people have had that experience. So. Is everybody lying? I mean, is everybody mistaken? Then you get federal judges and wildlife people and cops and, lawyers and everybody from society all over the place who've seen stuff, and then the historical stuff, Teddy Roosevelt and Daniel Boone and all these people over history that have had accounts with, Harry Wildman or whatever. It's like, is everybody making this up? I mean, if one person is telling the truth, the thing's real. What it is, who knows? I mean, that's the big argument, and a lot of these Bigfoot dudes, are horrible with each other. It's just almost like motorcycles, like they're, the politics is nuts.
Yeah.
Really?
But, I believe that it's real. What it is, I don't know.
Oh, like Mike was saying though, like the like realm of Bigfoot believers, there's like a big spread of like what the people think these things are. Like, whether it's like a lesser evolved, humanoid creature, or some people think it's like an alien, and they can actually like, there's all these explanations about how they can bend time and bend the camera angles so that they can't get caught on camera and all this stuff. It's a crazy world. Like when you start looking into it, and there's a lot of hoaxers out there too, man. Like there's some, that's probably the worst part of it. 'Cause these guys are hoaxing the hoaxers or whatever you want to call it, and then they get found out, and then it's like, oh, the whole thing's a big lie. It's like, well, no, how do you know that? You don't know that. You just saw this particular guy was BSing, but that don't mean everyone's experience wasn't real.
I mean, I don't go around telling my story. I just bring it up when the subject comes up among friends and everything, because like I said, I'm not some big believer, but I know what I saw without any doubt. I know what I saw, and there's no other logical explanation for it.
There's people just like you. They've taken lie detector tests and they've done all that, and they've come back, that they're not lying about it. And there's just no way that this thing isn't real. There's just too many people that have seen it, one way or the other. Yeah, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of hoaxers and people that are trying to get famous, but going on a podcast and telling your story. Yeah. I mean, I don't know how much fame you're going to get from that.
Yeah. Right.
And then you got guys on military bases and all this stuff that have seen these things, and they're all over the world too. It's not just Pacific Northwest. Yeah. If you follow it enough, you'll see that they're out in the desert and in Arizona and, all in the South and, Florida. Florida has a big deal. I mean, in some of the hoax stuff, it's like you're out in the middle of the swamp at 2:00 in the morning with poisonous snakes, and there's a million things that'll kill you in briars that are 4 inches thick that you walk through them, you die, and then they see some big thing moving around where they think that that's not real. Like, who would go out there and take that kind of chance to create a hoax? Mm-hmm. And you hear all these things, and unfortunately, the footage and the cameras and stuff, and who knows why. There are a few pictures out there that are pretty good and videos and stuff, and I know that's a big part of it. Like, oh, everything's grainy and everything's guys running and stuff. It's like, well, maybe if you had that experience, who knows? I mean, I don't know if I'd be able to pull out my cell phone, be calm, get the thing on camera, get the thing on video, and start videoing this thing when I'd probably be so terrified, unless something like what you would in a car. Mm-hmm. How would you even do it? I don't think I could do it. Yeah.
Well, back when I saw it too, there were no cameras on cell phones back then. Sure. So we didn't have a camera in the car. I wish so much I would have was able to videotape that, but anyways.
There's some good documentaries too out there, even beyond the Bigfoot thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that Missing 411. No. Seen that? Mm-hmm. You got to watch that. This is like this David Paulides guy. He's like an ex-San Jose detective or whatever. Now he's retired, and he spends all his time on mysterious missing cases. Okay. He's got a few documentaries and books. Really respected guy. And if you find out how many people go missing in national parks in the United States, you die.
Oh, really?
I mean, like in Yosemite, go up Yosemite, sounds great. I mean, thousands upon thousands of people are missing in these national parks. I mean, just disappear, just gone, up at Shasta and those areas. I mean, they just vanish, so there's all kinds of theories behind all this stuff, but I go down a million rabbit holes, Bigfoot's my thing. I'm not into ghosts. I don't care about anything else, skinwalkers and all the other crap that are going on, but anything Bigfoot I'll listen to. And it's funny, as soon as I put that post up, another Matt Olson, who's been one of our builders, and him and his dad have Olson's Cycle Supply. It's like world famous knucklehead restorer guys. He had a sighting in South Dakota or North Dakota, wherever he lives, when he was younger, with a girl out on a date driving on some farm road, and the thing ran right in front of the road. I mean, this guy is his country bumpkin apple pie, sounds like Gomer Pyle when he talks. I mean, Matt's an awesome guy, but I mean, he's just a real salt of the earth kind of guy, not some L.A. liar. Yeah. And he told me about it, and he's like, oh man, me and my girl, we were going on a date, and the thing ran right across the road, just like you, 7-8 feet tall, covered in hair. Yeah. It's like, who's going to be out, in the snow in South or North Dakota, wherever he lives, running across a farm road in the middle of nowhere?
No one.
Exactly.
Sasquatch. That's
so. I mean. Anyway, we're hoping to have him at Born Free. If anybody has a body, we'll give you a free booth.
I don't know. 2020's been weird, man. They already admitted that they have an alien craft for real in Area 51. So maybe they got Sasquatch too. They're just waiting to tell us.
Well, they're definitely covering it up. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. The government's covering up this for sure.
Yeah.
Well, if Bigfoot showed up to Born Free, I think that would be the most epic motorcycle event of all time.
Heck yeah. But you see Sasquatch riding in on a panhead chopper.
Maybe
I'll wear a costume.
I got one. I bought this full blown, it's a movie costume, this B-movie, Bigfoot movie. This guy was on OfferUp, and I saw it. I'm like, what? Some Brazilian guy. He's like, yeah, they made a B-movie with this costume, I don't know, a few years ago. It was actually it's a good one. It doesn't look like some of the ugly ones. And I bought the whole thing. It was like $400. And every time I'd done my own personal little raffles or whatever, I put my kid in it and then film Bigfoot, pulling the number or whatever. But
you should hire somebody to wear it all day weekend. Just
yeah.
Just lurk in the trees. Just lurk on people in the trees.
That would be rad, man.
So if anybody's listening, has any Bigfoot stories, hit me up.
Yeah, hit up Mike.
We have a Bigfoot
Or want to go Bigfooting.
We have a Bigfoot story time at Born Free this year.
Set up a campfire.
You need to make a T-shirt, a Born Free T-shirt with Bigfoot.
Oh, I did one years ago
Okay.
with my own blog thing. I had that Bigfoot on a chopper. So
Oh,
I've been
nice.
into it for a while. I mean, it just blew up recently because guys like you and people seem to be interested and it's fun.
Yeah,
It's cool.
But I'm into it. So if anybody wants to talk, I care more about Bigfoot than bikes.
Right on. All right, Mike. Well, we've gone way over time. Appreciate you donating your time to us and being on the podcast. It's been a pleasure having you here. And for those of you watching, check out the description of the video. And also up here, I'm going to be linking all the social media and the website for Born Free Show. If you haven't been, definitely check it out. You will not regret it. Hopefully we have it this year. Hopefully COVID doesn't get in the way. And thanks again, Mike. Hope to see you and talk to you in the future, and look forward to future shows and Born Free and everything. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. Talk to you later. See ya.
All right, thank you.